I'm Mehdi Hasan. Welcome to another Zeteo live town hall for paid subscribers. We appreciate you taking time out to join us. Today, we're talking about Pakistan once more, the crisis that never ends in that country, where former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been behind bars for over 500 days now, imprisoned by authorities on what many outside observers believe are trumped-up charges, and they see this as political persecution. The Pakistani government, of course, disagrees. But what's interesting is in recent days, you've had more and more American officials come out calling for his release, including a very close ally of Donald Trump's, the president-elect. Much to discuss. Where are the trials? What's the situation? And I'm delighted to be joined by Aleema Khan, the sister of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, joining us from Pakistan. Aleema, thanks so much for joining Zeteo today.
Thank you, Mehdi Hasan, for having me.
So a lot to talk about, and I would advise all of our paid subscribers who are joining the call, hundreds of you are joining the call right now, if you'd like to ask questions to Aleema about the situation in Pakistan, about the situation with her brother, please do write your questions, leave them in the chat. I'll try and ask as many of them as I can. I've got a few questions of my own, but let me kick off, Aleema, with the most obvious question, which is, what is the situation right now in terms of your brother's imprisonment, the trials? What is the latest on his legal situation?
Well, at the moment, he's now accumulated about 280 cases against him.
Wow.
All this that has happened in the past 2.5 years. Before that, he's never had any reason to be to have anybody file anything against him, except in cricket, maybe in London, when he had a dispute with Ian Botham. I don't think he's ever had to face any trial or any cases. But they keep piling up cases on him. But you see, you understand that he's become a symbol of what you see is happening in Pakistan. If it can happen to Imran Khan, basically understand it is happening to a lot of thousands of other people. If he has 280 cases because he's leading in the number of cases, but you'll meet people who've got 50 cases. They are accused in being in 5 or 6 or 7 places at the same time, or maybe 8 places, 5, 6 cities. So it's becoming ridiculous. It's become so ridiculous that nobody's taking the legal system or the policing system. Nobody's taking them seriously anymore. So all they've achieved in the past 2 years, one was that maybe it was to scare people. They thought they'll frighten people into submission. But all they've managed to do in 2 years is make a joke out of our whole judicial system. So he's got one case that he might be convicted on Monday. His trial has ended in one of the Al-Qadir, which is a charity it's a charity college that they set up for, basically, I think there are about 200 plus students over there. And he's facing that case that maybe he favored somebody who donated this college to him. So basically, one of what we heard the prosecution say day before yesterday in court, in front of the judge, was that it's a conflict of interest. A prime minister in office should not be setting up a charity institution. So that was a new thing. Our lawyer was shocked. He says, "You're serious? You're saying that he cannot set up a charity institution while he's in office? It's a conflict of interest." To use the word conflict of interest. This is how bizarre it is.
So clearly you and the family and his lawyers and the PTI, his political party, believe he is being targeted, right? These are not legitimate cases. And it does seem like the judiciary has become a bit of a joke from an outside perspective when you see him being prosecuted for apparently an illegal divorce in which his wife's menstrual cycles are introduced as evidence, bizarrely. So it is a bit of a laughingstock for those of us who live abroad, for sure. But it's not just him who's been targeted. You and your sister, I believe, were also arrested in October and put behind bars. How long were you behind bars and what were you arrested for?
We are one of the, like 3 weeks is very little to go behind, to be in jail. There are women, older women, 70 plus women. There are students who are 18, 19-year-old in military custody. My nephew it's been in military custody for the past 1 year and 5 months. My brother's in jail for 503 days now. So, and there are hundreds and hundreds of cases. It is so, and without any trial. It's not that at least the trial should have started. There are no trials. They're just sitting in jail waiting for a trial, because the trial, if they started the 9th May trial, which was a false flag operation, there is no evidence, because Imran Khan has said many times, set up a judicial commission, have an inquiry, produce the CCTV footage, and convict whoever was responsible for burning a few buildings. But 10,000 people arrested.
Yeah.
10,000 people arrested for 5 buildings.
What did they arrest you for?
They didn't tell. No, yeah, sorry. My sister and I were standing over there. There was no, the protest hadn't even started. We were standing on the roadside. So they came and arrested us. So the charges on my sister and myself are that we were most probably making a bomb, and we were going to blow up the National Assembly. Yes, yes.
Do you know how to make a bomb?
I told them, I said, we must have been making it in our kitchen. Like where were we going to make it, in the kitchen? Or maybe there's an internet which gives you recipes for that. It is that ridiculous. Oh, and a megaphone. Like we had a megaphone in our hands. We were on camera when we were arrested. Somebody was taking a video. So they said we had a megaphone. So if I tell them, no, I didn't have a megaphone, who's going to believe me? Even with video evidence.
So we've got some questions coming through from our subscribers in the chat. And if you do want to ask a question to Aleema Khan, please do write it in the Q&A, and we will try and ask as many as we can. We've got a lot of you waiting. Iftikhar Saraf asks, Aleema, how are you and your sisters coping with all of this stress?
Actually, Allah helps. When you are working for a bigger cause, as Imran Khan says, do you know how many times I'll tell you what the stress was. When we saw 200 cases in front of him, the offers that were coming in at that time: leave the country for 3 years, 2 years, 6 months, stay shut up for 6 months. And we thought, so these cases were never supposed to run this long. But Imran Khan turned around and said, I'm going to face each and every case, and I'm going to clear my name. Now all the cases are coming to an end. So what we have, we've been going into jail court, which is Adiala jail. Well, maybe even all of us, we sit there through his case. That's about 250 or 300 days inside the jail also. Please do not forget that.
You tweeted earlier this month on December the 2nd that for the first time, you and your family members were not allowed into the jail court for the first time. Why was that?
I think that was because it was right after the massacre, the Islamabad. We were there.
The protests that were cracked down on in November, the PTI protests.
It was the 26th of November when Islamabad, the protesters, we were part of the protest. My sister's 14, 15-year-old granddaughter was with us. Like, you don't take children to a protest thinking there's going to be live bullets firing. Yes, we understand tear gas. We even understand rubber bullets, because that became a norm since a few years, because we are used to piles and piles of rubber bullets and tear gas shells being fired into protesters, even if they're not doing anything. But live ammunition, people sitting on top of buildings, and sniper fire, we saw the wounded. We saw the people who fell. There were bodies lying that the people couldn't pick up because there would be more sniper fire. They were injured. There were people who with bullet wounds that we saw. They were bandaged and they came.
How many were there, by the way? Because the Sharif government, of course, claims that the security personnel were not firing live bullets. They claim that you're exaggerating the number of people who were killed or injured. What do you believe happened on that day in terms of the casualty numbers?
You see, the problem with the government and with everybody is they're so outdated. The times have changed. This is a new generation. This is a new times. There's a phone. Everybody carries a phone.
Yes.
So the evidence is in thousands of videos and pictures and statements from people. They were the ones who were injured, that there are videos with people dying live on camera. So with these idiots, they think it's also, don't forget, remember, I'm charged with making a bomb or carrying a megaphone. So they can turn around and say, they don't need video evidence to prove it. It's their courts. But imagine turning around and saying there is no video evidence, there is no evidence. It is in the daytime, there were hundreds, there were a lot of people who died during the day through the sniper rifles and injured. Lots of injuries. I mean, there are eyewitness accounts, but it is what happened later on at night. We were standing there past 9 o'clock. We were close to the front, actually
Yeah.
very worried and asking these young people to turn back. I mean, I was telling them, I said, the sniper rifle, don't stand here. People had come with their bedding. They were planning to, it was a sit-in. So
Yes.
when you come with your bedding, and they were preparing to go to sleep on the green belt. There's a green belt between the service lane and the main road. It's a big avenue. And they had settled themselves down. So then you do a massive operation at night. You turn up. It was pitch black. We were standing there. That's when we left. When it was so dark and we started seeing, when you see bullets in the dark, like there's a tracer sort of a
Yeah.
line, and the tear gas shells started coming closer. We left that area, but that's when they did a massive operation late at night, and there are eyewitness accounts of bodies being piled into vans. Now, that's because it was so dark. You can hear sounds of bullets. You can hear everything.
Yes.
So it is not going to remain hidden. I'm telling you, at the moment, there are thousands of people in jail, are volunteers. I mean, commendable, the young people, the young lawyers, the young volunteers. They go from jail to jail, helping the families locate their loved ones. They keep moving them from jail to jail.
So you mentioned them. Abinta Malik, one of our subscribers, asks, my mother was arrested for 10 days because she went to peacefully protest. She is, quote, privileged, yet the horrific conditions she faced were beyond description. How can we protect the innocent people who don't have that privilege? What can lawyers do?
The lawyers are facing, like, look, what did Imran Khan ask for? It's very important to understand. He in fact said this yesterday. So I'm quoting what he said. He said, keep in mind that when people break the constitution, or when the government breaks the constitution, when he says when his government was removed, or when they sort of removed his government, what did he say? He himself dissolved his government in KP, in one of the two of the provinces, which is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab, in January. Now, the constitution requires that you set up a caretaker government and then you hold elections within 3 months. So did they hold elections in 3 months, the caretaker government? No. It was held after 1 year because they needed 1 year to prepare to crush his party. What happened to that? What was the caretaker government doing? Caretaker government was putting more cases on Imran Khan. Caretaker government was busy persecuting people. It was during the caretaker government that people's homes were broken into, women were picked up. There is a story in every house right now.
Yeah.
And maybe that was important for Pakistan, for us to have a wake-up call when the privilege started being affected, like all the privileged people, us,
Yes.
basically.
So,
Unless we were not going to get affected, we were never going to realize what has been happening to poor people in our country for since the birth of the country.
So Shazad Tucker asks a forward-looking question. He says, do you envision a future where one day Imran Khan returns as prime minister? Is that even something he wants to do?
Actually, you know what Imran Khan's dream is. People sort of, it's important to reinforce what his dream was. He said, there is nobody who can come and sit in a government and bring a change unless the people are ready for it. People have to understand that they have to learn to stand up for their own rights. They have to fight for their rights. It has happened in all the societies in the world where there's been an evolution, has been through some sort of a confrontation, because there is always going to be a mafia. And why shouldn't they take over and control the country and its resources? Because we allow it. If you want to become a citizen of this country and have the rule of law, all he ever fought for was a rule of law. He always said rule of law, democracy, and human rights. That's his three main. The protest on the 24th of November, which moved up to 26th, was for the judiciary, because what has happened right now, and it has been happening, it was to some extent it existed, but over the past 1.5 years, it's like martial law, worse than martial law. We've seen 3 martial laws. Nobody's seen anything like this.
Yes.
The democratic process, they crushed his party, they took away his symbols. Anybody who was going to become a candidate in his for the elections, they abducted them.
Yes.
When they thought they were ready, and when they thought they were absolutely ready, no party, no symbol, nobody's allowed to campaign, they held the election and they got a shock of their lives.
Yes.
That is when the revolution came in.
So
That
you
is the
mentioned
modern day revolution.
You mentioned your party. Nafisa Rizvi asks, the party seems fragmented. There are fissures amongst the party members. Are you making an effort to repair these schisms, or are you going to leave it for Imran Khan to face when he comes out of prison?
Let me tell you, I'm here basically for my brother. And but let me tell you about 8th of February. 8th of February, when people basically took the establishment into their own hands. The change actually happened on 8th of February. It'll be written about. Remember, this is going to be studied in universities. It was a shocking thing, so smart, without any candidate. They knew exactly what they learned. They basically sabotaged the efforts of the establishment. 9th, all their vote was stolen. Imran Khan swept the elections at that time. The party slept. Now that is when the panic set in to now suppress the people who've decided that they are going to take decisions into their own hands for their own future and their own country. So when you say, are there fissures in the party? No. The new establishment is the people.
Okay.
This is the change. The change in a country comes from when the people decide that we will determine our own future. When they speak up, there's no fissures. What is happening in the West. Now you tell me, if there is a congressman or a senator in California, who challenges them? It's their people, it's their voters. The voters challenge them, say that you are supposed to represent us. That's exactly what's happening in Pakistan.
You mentioned
the people are challenging their representatives. There are no fissures.
You mentioned as an example a moment ago, America and how democracy works here in the US. You said California. It made me think this week we had Richard Grenell, who has been appointed by Donald Trump as a special envoy to hotspots around the world, a very close ally of the president-elect. Grenell came out and compared Imran Khan to Trump and said he wants to see Imran Khan freed. And then Ro Khanna, who is a Democrat, different party from California, Indian American, he put out a tweet saying, it's bipartisan. I agree, free Imran Khan. So you had Ro Khanna, influential Democratic congressman, Richard Grenell, influential Republican, close to Trump, is going to be in the new administration, both saying free Imran Khan. Do you think that'll have an effect on the Pakistani government? Is that going to make them think, oh, wow, the world is actually paying attention to what we do, or will they ignore that?
Well, actually, Pakistani establishment has been, they've done this, they've always done this. And because there have been wars along our borders, they've always there's a system over here where they told us they were terrorists in one province and that they were traitors in the other province. And shamefully, all of us never really questioned that. We really have a strong belief in the military. My husband was in the Air Force. He's an aerospace engineer. And he was in the Air Force. My family is like, we've got generals and brigadiers. So we've got a lot of relatives in the military. But we are part of, as I said, we are part of that little status quo, maybe. But unless we do not bring a change, there's a new generation. What you just said about bipartisan, maybe there's a change in your country too. It's a change.
But will it have an impact? The question I'm asking is, does the American government, the American political establishment, have the power to pressure the Pakistani government into releasing Imran Khan? Or will these words from Grenell and Khanna fall on deaf ears in Islamabad?
And let me ask you a question. Do you know what happened in 2022 when Imran Khan's government was, put out a no confidence vote against him.
With the cipher. We know about the cipher. We've talked about the cipher.
That was, I'm not going to talk about the cipher, but there was a middle range bureaucrat who made a phone call.
Yeah.
And Bajwa first sold to him that how anti-American Imran Khan is. That was Bajwa and Hussain Haqqani's lobbying.
Yeah, the former chief of staff, military head.
Yeah, and General Bajwa was selling this to the Americans that he's against you. This anti-American thing was built up by your own generals. The problem with the U.S. establishment has been that you do know that Pakistan and Afghanistan have been under Pentagon after 9/11. They manage the policy, foreign policy. So the problem is that you've got to let go from both sides. Pakistani people deserve a chance. After Imran Khan's government fell, that government go through if you look at the statistics, it was at 6%.
I understand what you're saying about the U.S. role in the past. But what am I hearing you suggest that America does have the power if it should choose to have Imran Khan free?
But because I feel that if one person, Donald Lu, can call up and they activate themselves, establishment activates itself, and then it brings down a government, Imran Khan's government. What they were not prepared for was the reaction from the people. That's all. So the will of the people, when governments deal with each other, I'm not making a foreign policy statement. I'm just making a citizen statement that when governments in this generation or in the future, maybe in the last century, it might have been different, but in this century, we must consider each other to be a people-to-people contact.
Yes, but not as a foreign policy person, not as a party person, but as a Pakistani citizen and as Imran Khan's sister. I assume you welcome this new support from people around Trump.
Actually, I raised this question on a British channel, and I said, Pakistan is a member of Commonwealth, and there are I think about 40 countries in the Commonwealth. And I said, one of the main the principles of that Commonwealth is rule of law, democracy, human rights. So when you have that as a common denominator amongst 40 nations, how come nobody spoke up for Pakistan?
Yeah.
Or how come nobody spoke up, or the other 39 countries speak up, understand some of them in Africa, but Britain leads it. Did they raise their voice against the human rights abuses? In fact, the ambassador in Pakistan said maybe the diplomatic area or some area might have been under threat. It was not justified to shoot your own people. It was a massacre. And we never heard enough voices from around the world. If people champion human rights, how can you stole the mandate, subjugated the judiciary, then the human rights abuses are galore over here right now. In fact, while I'm speaking to you, if I take Bajwa's name, or if I say I might be arrested the next day, I have a backpack ready to go back to jail. People don't fear jail. What they fear is abduction and missing. And there are a lot of people who are still getting abducted, apart from the bodies that can't be found. So
you mentioned
it is up to the. Yeah, sorry.
No, you mentioned a moment ago about the Commonwealth not speaking up, UK. What about in terms of Pakistanis not speaking up? Sohaib Ahmed, one of our subscribers, asked a question in the chat. He says, Pakistanis have been brought up listening to religious scholars giving sermons about bravery, referencing examples of Hazrat Hamza, Hazrat Ali, Imam Hussein. Is your brother disappointed that most of them couldn't find a drop of that bravery to call out the oppression of Pakistanis?
Not really. A lot of countries are going through the same situation as we are. But we are very proud of Pakistanis. Very smart, very intelligent, very wise, the way they came and voted on the 8th of February. Now that, if you don't think, you see, the problem is because it's so silent, you don't realize it was a revolution. It was a revolution where people got up and said, we do not want this system of tyranny. Now what you're seeing is because we've been part of it. It's very exciting, actually. On one side, there is suppression, but then Imran Khan, then you just said Karbala, or you talk about situations in the past, in the world, you still talk about them. inshallah, one day they will talk about this period in Pakistan. And inshallah, Pakistanis will come out. After 9th May, people were shocked. They were, anybody could be picked up. It was the first time in major cities. And there was a lot of fear for many months. People were threatened on the telephone. I mean, it was really bad. Now there's no fear. I'm telling you, there's no fear.
Wow.
There is no fear. After that date, after that 26th, there's no fear. And people are, it's what Imran Khan doesn't want is that people should not. He was devastated. When you asked me, why did they not let us into jail? Because we were going to go and tell him what we saw. And
Yes.
the next day we managed to go. We created enough fuss that we did manage to go. We told him. He was so devastated. He's still so affected by it. Everybody knows that. Maybe that's why they killed so many people, thinking that Imran Khan would never allow this to happen again. But he's already taken his mission overseas.
So a lot of questions from subscribers about what's happening behind the scenes. Ashra Sayed asks, what's your take on the different messages coming out from PTI leadership after they meet with Imran Khan? It's hard to trust the party leadership. He says many seem to have been infiltrated by the military establishment. Naya Islam says, Aleema, as far as you know, is there any truth that's going on social media that Imran Khan is being contacted by the military to negotiate a deal?
Actually, throughout this 1.5 years, there have been different messaging that come to us. As I said, we heard 3 years, he should go away for 3 years. Why would he go away for 3 years? This is my country. Because this has been the pattern with all the other parties, but they had to leave because they had to save their looted money, their corrupt money. That's why they had to leave. They have to protect that. But what he faced all his cases, they were not prepared for that. That's what he's done. You do need to have, you have to be Imran Khan, his faith in Allah. And then they started telling us, we did get messages which said he'll be eliminated in a couple of months. We have received several such messages. And one day I went and told him, I said, we have faith in Allah, but we worry. I mean, this is what now they want to eliminate you in jail. He said, well, never say that again. You are weak of faith if you say that. No, my life is not in the hand of these people. When Allah wills, I'll die, but not before that.
On that note, Samina Shah asks, don't you think it's sensible to have him released on their terms, their conditions, continue to fight from outside Pakistan, maybe in the UK? Nawaz Sharif came back to Pakistan after 7 years. Why can't Imran Khan do the same?
Imran Khan is not here to become a prime minister. He's here to lead a people and teach them how to stand up for their rights. It's a much bigger goal that he has for himself, that his target that he set for himself is to raise a nation which will learn to stand up for their rights, because the future is very bleak. Where we had 6% growth during his time, it has now collapsed. The loss to the economy, according to some economists, is from 28 billion to 42 billion in the past 2.5 years. That has pushed a lot of millions of people below the line of poverty. So should we not all stand with him and fight for our freedom?
So Khatija Hussain says, I'd like to say as a woman, I really admire you. Everyone should have sisters like Imran Khan's sisters. She also says, I live in the UK. What can we, the British Pakistanis, do to help more than we are trying to do now? And a similar question from the US, Salim Shah says, what can we do in the US to advocate for his release?
Actually, that's what I understood from all the overseas expatriate Pakistanis was that, for example, Commonwealth, I just asked a question, like, shouldn't the British government, which is leading the Commonwealth, are these really outdated communities? Like when you make a Commonwealth, what was the purpose of it? If you set democracy, human rights, and rule of law, then nations should support each other. When there's tyranny in a country and when there's a martial law which has been brought in with the face of democracy, it's farcical. So maybe your public representative should speak up and ask their government they should have an even-handed foreign policy. When you go to Iran, for one single person, I see a lot of coverage in BBC. And I'm looking, as an observer, I wonder, look what's happening in Pakistan. Isn't their ambassador, their high commissioner reporting back to their government? Maybe this is the question you should ask your government.
Yes, very good point. A couple of attendees in the chat are asking the same question, which is, what is the difference, in your view, as someone who's known him his entire life, between Imran Khan, the person before imprisonment, and Imran Khan, the person now?
Stronger, deeper faith. I would say that, like, sometimes you look at him and I think he's moved further up in his belief, or maybe in the Sufism or the mysticism, because he can now see much further, I think, than he did earlier. And he's absolutely relaxed, very calm, extremely, when he walks in, it's sort of, you cannot not be, how can be him coming from a solitary confinement, when he walks into the court, everybody who's met him is taken aback, who looks, mashallah, he looks younger, he looks fitter, because remember, he laughs about it, that if I've got time to myself, then there are two things I do. I read the Quran, I read books, and I exercise. So he's got a cycle, that exercise cycle. So
how is his prison cell right now? Because when I interviewed him remotely, when I sent emailed questions over to him in prison in May, he famously talked about being in a death cell. And then the Pakistani government came out very strongly and said, no, 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 he has a very nice cell. He has great food. We've given him a chef. There's a big argument about how bad his conditions are. What are his conditions right now? How good or bad are they?
Listen, he is in a 7x10 cell. Normally they say it's 8x10, but we were in a similar cell when we were in the other jail. So I made sure I measured it. It's not exactly 8 width. It's about 7.5. It's a small cell. So it has bars on its doors, and the gallery outside has an open top. So he just talked about it. He was just mentioning it, and I came out and mentioned it. He didn't say talk about it. We were just having a conversation. He said, it gets really cold by about Fajr time, that I get really cold because there's a cold draft that comes from below and above the plastic sheet they have in front of the bars. And I just mentioned it outside. People have that. I have had to sit and explain to people, no, 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 it's okay. We don't talk about it. People get very upset. But he has a chef. What they do is, in jail, what happens is, you can hire another um, jail, like a prisoner. So he's hired somebody who cooks for him. Because of security reasons, we never give him any food, not a single, I don't know, not even a single nut, because they'll turn around and say something happened to him because we gave food from home. So it is the jail authorities buy for him, and they're 100% responsible. His food is cooked separately, but he's not that fussy about food in any case.
We are running out of time. Before we wrap up, and I want to thank everyone in the chat. We've taken about a dozen questions already. There are dozens and dozens of more questions I see in the Q&A. Sadly, we can't take them all, but we appreciate your questions. Muhammad Malik asks, though, a news story this week. Salman Ahmed from Junoon is a celebrity supporter and was a worker and member of PTI. There was all these stories about him apparently criticizing your family. The PTI officials have fired him from the party this week. Muhammad Malik is asking, Aleema, do you agree with this decision?
Actually, things are very sensitive since the 26th of November. So emotions are running high. It's part of what's happening right now, but it's going to happen. There are going to be more incidences like that. There's blame game. Imran Khan told us another thing when we were in jail, and I'll pass on this few pearls of wisdom. He said, when we lost a match and I came back to the dressing room, I tell you, I never did a briefing, because that is the worst time to do a briefing, because that's when everybody's blaming each other. So stay away till everybody calms down, and then I would have a briefing. So that's a little nugget of wisdom for people to understand, that it's a very traumatic time. People are devastated with the massacre of Islamabad. It's a massacre. People are missing. We don't know. Maybe there are hundreds missing.
But you haven't taken a public stand on what happened to Salman Ahmed?
No. Listen, it's not about taking a public stand. I don't take a stand on anything.
Okay.
The best thing is let everybody calm down and things will be okay, fine. We have to focus on Imran Khan. We have to make sure that he's being charged with more cases. And eventually, how is it going to come? It's when Pakistani people decide that he should come out. That's when he's going to come out of prison.
And there have been some amazing, you mentioned he might be prosecuted on Monday in another trial. There have been amazing scenes from Pakistan over the last couple of years, some of which have ended in tragedies. You mentioned November 26th, protests, civil disobedience. Obviously, the Pakistani government claims that these are violent protests. As you say, people have cameras, they can see for themselves. But Imran, your brother, the former PM, he tweeted on Wednesday, he said, I am postponing the proposed civil disobedience movement, during which I will define the framework and timeline of the movement. So last question for you. What does he mean by that tweet? What happens next for the people protest movement that you have been promoting during this conversation?
Well, what has happened is that was a few days ago, because what happens is the establishment, this is the standard operating. You know, I get messages saying, why don't you stay quiet for 10 days from wherever it comes from? You know, these are like, there's this invisible people that send messages, or sometimes, why don't you tone down what you say? I said, I don't say anything. I only say what Imran Khan gives me a message. I come out and I relay his message. I'm not the only one. Our whole family is standing there. We go over his points and we relay it to the public. So they ask, why don't you tone it down? There is nothing to tone down. Whatever Imran Khan says, we will bring out. One. Secondly, yesterday, Imran Khan clearly stated that, yes, I've given a few days. And what was he delaying it for? He said, 2-point agenda. Set up a judicial commission to inquire on the 9th of May incident and on the 26th of November. One is to set up judicial commission under the 3 Supreme Court judges. Secondly, is free the illegally jailed supporters and workers. 2 demands. There is no indication, there is no indication in reverse, and all they want is for him to not do this. He gave a call yesterday and said on Sunday, if these demands are not met, the non-cooperative movement, which is basically, he's appeal to the overseas Pakistanis not to send their dollars to Pakistan.
Yes, the remittances.
Already going to start remittances. Yeah. He is
do you believe, as we look forward to 2025, do you believe 2025 is the year you'll see your brother freed?
I think so, because they've run out of all cases. It's looking really bad. Now they're becoming a laughing stock. They've collapsed. They think they've collapsed the judiciary. They've muffled. I mean, they're threatening the media. Media can't do anything. Ask the media in Pakistan. They're scared of saying anything. They're fired. So media, they think, is under control. They think the democracy is well under control, because the whole parliament is what they gave the stolen mandate to. So judiciary, media, and democracy, that's a martial law. So if they think in this modern day, with half of Pakistan's population, which is in that not even past their 20s, you know that, 100 million young people looking at the future in Pakistan, which is so dark, with a collapsing economy, it's not sustainable. It's as simple as that. Tyranny is not sustainable.
Yep. On that note, tyranny is indeed unsustainable. I think the Syrians would agree with that. Aleema Khan, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you joining us. I'm sure our subscribers appreciated this conversation. And to our subscribers, I say thank you. Sorry I couldn't ask so many of your questions that are in the chat. We tried to get through more than a dozen of them. Please do tell your friends and family to subscribe to Zeteo so we can do more of these kind of town halls. But we'll be back very soon, probably in the new year, with another town hall. Aleema Khan, thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.